that many people. So today is February 3rd, and we have a second community meeting this week. So yesterday we had a meeting in the epoch time zone where we discussed quite a lot of topics. We had a welcome with Mac Roberts, who joins to help with documentation. Also, we discussed CAP 68, and we will continue today. We had a quick update on CAP 65 and on Keptn incubation. So for today, we have a few topics. Basically, CAP 68 continued, CAP 65 continued, and I wanted to do last sync up on Google Summer of Code because I'm really late with this topic, so a plan B is needed. And this is what I wanted to discuss. So let's start with CAP 68 then.
Yeah, sure.
Would you like to screen share? Or would you like me to screen share?
No, I can share.
Okay.
Fine with it. All right, you can see my screen, and I'm now opening up this CAP. This CAP enhancement proposal describes a very handy feature. It's a feature of retriggering a sequence. Yeah, because this sometimes or almost on a 2 weeks basis, we get the request that it would be very handy that I can retrigger a sequence that failed, especially when I'm new to Keptn and I'm exploring and I'm playing around with Keptn, then I'm confronted with failed sequences, and to fastly retrigger them, I would like to have support here in the bridge as well as by the CLI. And there are two options. On the one hand, I would like to retrigger a sequence that was running in a particular stage. And here I'm proposing to add here a rerun button or a retrigger button, which will then take the payload of the delivery event, and then I would execute a second run of this delivery sequence. And the second option would be to have it a level above, on the level of for the entire sequence. And when I click this particular retrigger button, then I would get a new sequence. A new sequence will then pop up here in the left part where I get the new entry, and from that on, yeah, the sequence will then get executed in the first stage, in the next one, and so on. And it's really like a new sequence, but the payload is identical to the one that we had here. Here I'm also explaining or just proposing how this could look like from the CLI point of view. And also what should not be part of that CAP, and should not be part that we provide dedicated endpoints for those features, because we already have the event endpoint, and that is sufficient to implement this capability. And also very important, in this CAP, we also don't want to allow someone to retrigger a task. This CAP is really focused on just sequence level and not on triggering individual tasks. All right, yeah. Some discussion already happened on this Keptn enhancement proposal, so I got a couple of questions. I also explained here, for example, what happens if what happens with the retriggering button when a sequence was retriggered. Then my that we disable those buttons of old sequences and just make the last one highlighted and active. Then this is a little bit a tricky one, because we also have the situation, or we allow that we have sequences that get started by the outcome of the previous one. Let's assume we have here, for example, a sequence which does a delivery, and based on this delivery sequence, we then kick off a release sequence. It's just an example, but it could be the case. And here we have a triggered on property set. And when we have the situation that the delivery was successful, then the release will be executed. And in this case, it would also be possible and feasible that I retrigger both of them. In case we have a sequence which works like a backup sequence or a sequence which does a cleanup, so to say, then I would not allow to retrigger this one, because this would then cause more confusion or more problems that it might solve. And in this particular case, the button should not be visible here. And this is the situation when we have a triggered on configured, which then yeah, searches or selects on a match on a result fail.
Sorry, how would you distinguish those two, like the left one from the right one?
Yeah, the left one is kind of where I just have a triggered on. This is the way we queue sequences, and and on the right side we have a selector set, and whenever there is a selector, then I will expect that I don't get a re-trigger button. Just
So from a technical perspective, that should work, yeah. But I don't think if this is actually working from a logical perspective, like maybe I want to retrigger a sequence with a selector, but maybe I don't. Like we will see.
yeah, I think we have to wait, or we need feedback here. And I would go the pessimistic way first of not allowing to re-trigger this particular sequence, and when someone really has a proof and can yeah explain why he or she needs it, then we also allow it. But for now, I would go with not allowing you to re-trigger this particular sequence. And on the left side here, because this is just the way we are chaining sequences, and this chain works whenever there is a sequence that passed successfully, and here retriggering should be possible and should not cause any problems. On the right side, this might not be the case. And then there was also the question coming up, can I retrigger a sequence 2 times or multiple times? Yes, you can. I did this already by sending a couple of events to Keptn. And what will happen then? Yeah, you get a queue of sequences, and this queue will then be executed from top to bottom. But this is possible and also not a big problem. And just a remark, would be also nice to have a confirmation dialog when I click the retrigger button, because yeah, user should get informed of the consequences that are happening. And Oleg, you also mentioned there whether it is possible to do this via API. And the good news is that this is possible as of today, because you just take the payload of the initial event and send it to the events endpoint. The only 2 things that you should take into consideration is removing the ID for achieving the use case of retriggering a sequence in a stage. And when you also remove the SH Keptn context, then it would be a new sequence, and everything starts from the beginning.
What's the behavior if you don't do that?
If you don't do what?
If you don't take out the ID and Keptn context.
Then, good question. Didn't try it out.
That's the negative use.
But yeah, that's a good one. But I have to try it out. But I would assume that it shows up as an additional delivery sequence here, as an additional sequence. But
just
let me take a note
something to try. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, because I am thinking as you're showing this, Johannes, is the all these webhooks too, because we are, we also listen for those new tasks. So presumably they would work the same way. Fine, like if you retriggered a sequence or a task, it would just the webhooks that subscribe to it just automatically pick up with no problem.
Yeah, it sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, the main question right now is automation. So basically, a web interface is more or less trivial, and this is what we need. Well, I can guess it will be more complicated if we add parameters, etc. But right now, it's quite straightforward. For cloud events and the company, it's something important to specify, because my understanding that what we specify now would be also immediately aligned with CD events, because such generic actions like retriggering, pipelines, etc., would be rather there. So my expectations from that would be that once we have our spec for Keptn events, we should immediately propose it to be upstream to CD events.
Yep, I agree.
But yeah,
Okay.
do you also plan to add CLI commands for that? Or how would the user interaction look like beyond the web interface?
The CLI commands I have laid out here by going with the trigger command, with the trigger subcommand, and this would then look like that way, that as a Keptn trigger sequence, I define the stage, and when I hand over already a SH Keptn context, then I would retrigger this particular. Actually, oops, sorry, thanks for pointing it out. The sequence name is missing here. Keptn trigger sequence delivery in my dev stage, and with this SH Keptn context, and then I would get a new sequence in here.
Yeah, from a user experience standpoint, maybe it makes sense to differentiate trigger and retrigger commands. So basically, currently you would be just passing the parameter, right?
Right. Yeah, I would control this functionality or behavior via the flags or parameters that are coming in, and not differentiate it here. That's also a fair point.
So one opinion on that as well. What if you have a typo in SH Keptn context, either in the parameter flag or copying the context, you forgot the character, then it has a completely different meaning. So I'm also very much for considering, I'm not saying it needs to be like that, but for considering a separate retrigger command.
Yep, that's true, because this could then cause problems and issues. There were now two notes. The first one was from Rob.
Yeah, maybe another question regarding that. So what happens, let's say, if the command gets duplicated? So we retrigger it twice due to whatever reason. For example, somebody clicks on the web interface, CLI calls duplication, whatever. So what would be the behavior?
The behavior would be that we actually get the result like here, where we have then the sequence triggered 1, 2, 3 times.
Okay, but if these 3 times happen in parallel, then so we won't merge these pipelines. So we will trigger 3 competing pipelines, sequences operating against the same environment.
Here we should, or Oleg, you should note that they are not running in parallel then. They are queued and are executed one by the other. Meaning when 2 are coming in at almost the same time, then the first one will kick off and then will get executed by Keptn. The other one is in a queued state, and just when the first one is finished, then the next one will continue. But I agree this can happen, that there are coming in, that multiple sequences are coming in, but I will leave it then up to the user to abort the other ones, or to let them run.
Understood. So, well, later we could implement some kind of queue merge, or we could just prohibit retriggering if it's already triggered by returning special status. I'm just concerned that if we talk about delivery sequences, that multiple reprovisioning actually wreak the havoc in user in target environment, especially if the service gets brought down, because you have a delivery, it passes, and then you shut down the service again because you reprovision the instance. And my understanding is that currently it's not dependent on the status. So basically you can retrigger even the successful sequence.
Right. Yep.
Is it as designed?
That is as designed, yeah. That you cannot that you can, or that the status is not considered when hitting a retrigger.
It's the same way in Jenkins, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. There are restarts from milestone, etc., which behave a bit differently, but in principle, the status doesn't matter. And Jenkins actually has multiple statuses, not just passed, failed. There are special statuses for aborted, for interrupted, and for unstable. Maybe it's I actually brought it up in a Keptn Slack today. There was a question, so how do we mark the behavior if there is infrastructure failure for evaluation? So maybe it's something that we will also need to consider for future, whether we just do pass fail or whether we extend the statuses. Because, for example, if
hey guys,
Keptn,
sorry,
yeah.
Is there a way to put a chat? Oh, there's a chat. Sorry, I think this is okay to put here, but just as you guys are thinking about it, I mean, other tools you just mentioned Jenkins. I mean, there's a link to another product that is trying to solve that same problem. Do you rerun the whole workflow? Do you rerun individual steps? So just as you survey options, there's one reference of how someone else did it. But maybe to that point, maybe we need, I know we have an abort the sequence button, but maybe we need also an abort the task button. So in that scenario, you fired off 3 deliveries by mistake. You can nuke, or cancel out 2 of the 3, that are still queued without having to disrupt the whole sequence.
So basically, research how other projects behave in such situations.
Yeah, so I guess I had 2 comments there. One was, right, take a look at how others do it, and then secondarily, coming back to that use case of I accidentally did 2 more deliveries, and they haven't run yet. Maybe the user can have a little X like we have on the sequence level, but just have another X there. So have it at that level as well, so you can abort queued tasks that haven't run yet, or abort tasks that are hung. Maybe, I don't know. Just a thought. And I don't know if other tools distinguish between a rerun versus a regular run. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I guess that's part of that research. Like when I think of other tools, like when you run the pipeline again, you get a new job ID and it just kind of does its thing, right? Distinguish, I don't think, at least from a user standpoint.
Rob, this is actually, these are the 2 use cases I describe here. When clicking this retrigger rerun button, then I get a new sequence with
right.
a new
That makes
ID.
sense. Yeah.
And when I do it in here, then I would just execute this sub
task within the existing sequence. Yep, get that.
Right.
Yep. Right. Totally get that. Yeah, totally makes sense. I wasn't thinking of that second one. Like that's cool. I was just thinking we were going to be allowed to run the whole sequence again. So to me, that's more than I was thinking this would do. So this is great.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for the feedback already, and we will not start implementing it immediately. This also gives all of us some more time to think about it.
Yeah.
But when you have some thoughts, ideas, please just watch out this Keptn enhancement proposal and add a comment there. Happy to answer all the questions.
Yeah.
I briefly want to jump to the next enhancement proposal that came in the last couple of weeks, and it's all about the Keptn declarative as well as GitOps. The author of that is actually Thomas. Is Thomas on the call today?
Nope.
No, he's not. He did here a great job of describing a new way of declaring configuration for Keptn, and then also aligning this with a more advanced GitOps approach. I don't want to recall the entire Keptn enhancement proposal. I want to directly jump to the last action item that we derived. And in a previous meeting, we discussed of splitting this enhancement proposal into two components. I have here explained where the split should happen. On the one hand, this part of the bigger picture will remain in this cap. It's about the GitOps operator and using a code repo or any other repository, which will then be watched by a GitOps operator and then creates the stages, services, projects, and so on. This is what will remain. And what we agreed on moving out to a new one is the enhancement is the Keptn operator itself, which will then take the custom resource definitions and applies those on Kubernetes, and will also then interact with the Keptn API. Why we are splitting it? Because we think that here we have two concerns where also two teams can work on without dependency, even though there is a little bit of a dependency, because the GitOps operator is a requirement for a Git operator, but to have the topic separated, we would like to also split this cap. And the status is the following. I'm waiting for Thomas to update this Keptn enhancement proposal with his latest updates, and once this is done, I will take out the part of the Keptn operator. All right.
So can I just ask? I mean, sorry, I'm just reading this up on this one. At a high level, what would this do? What would this do from an end user point of view?
Okay.
Do I structure my files in a different way? Like kind of like I know there's a lot of internal stuff, but what does it do to me as the user of this?
For an end user, the change will be that you as an end user, you don't type in Keptn create project, Keptn create service, Keptn trigger sequence. You don't do this anymore. You just define in your Keptn configure in your Git repository which stage you want to have, which service you want to have onboarded, which sequence you want to get triggered. You just save it, commit it to your repository, and the GitOps operator is watching it, or is watching your repo. And whenever a change is detected, then the machinery will kick on and will then apply this change to Keptn, and Keptn will be fully abstracted away for you then.
Yeah.
The only way you are interacting with Keptn is then by updating custom resources in your repository, and you don't send events, you don't create services or projects anymore.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I mean, maybe I'm catching up to this idea, but because that was one of the problems I had specifically. I know you guys saw that Keptn automation thing where it's kind of a funny well, maybe it's you can confirm, but where I have to have a blank repo when I create my project so that currently Keptn will build all the directories it needs. Then I can, and I don't even know if I'm allowed to add additional project files into that same repo and kind of manage it with my code. Because we always talk about, I have the Keptn files and my code all in the same place, but you have to start with the blank repo to even begin. And it's like a chicken and the egg problem. It's like, well, I have this repo with with some code that I want to use as my starting point and then make it enabled with Keptn, but then I can't do it that way. Like now I have two repos. I have
Right.
a Keptn repo
Right.
and a code repo, and things all get out of whack. So to me, this sounds like it would really address that problem a lot.
It does.
Great.
It does.
Yeah.
I mean, internally, the Keptn repo will be there, but not visible to the end user, because the only interaction point will then be via the code repository the dev or the dev is working on, and this is just the only way to work with Keptn then. And Thomas did also a great job in summarizing all the issues that are currently open and related to this topic. And for example, here we have one of bootstrapping an existed bootstrapping a project
Yeah.
from an
Yeah.
existing Git upstream. This would then be possible.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, because it's yeah, because I did a demo yesterday to a meetup group, and that's where they didn't ask that question, but I have two different repos. I was flipping back and forth. Here's my one repo where I had GitHub Actions calling and invoking pipelines that called my existing project, and I had another repo that Keptn was managing for the Keptn project files, and then it just sort of looked, just like, why is that? It naturally, it's like, well, why do I have two repos? But anyway, yeah. So thank you for explaining that. I think this is, I really like if this is where we're going. This is great.
Cool. Yeah, we also think this would be a really awesome enhancement to Keptn, and also the way you as a user would interact with Keptn.
Maybe
Just a question, maybe like, if people start to review, this is sort of like just my first time really coming to these, but as these proposals are out there, how can someone say, without just like, I, want to +1 this idea, like, or just say like, I really want to, give feedback just in generically, like, yeah, this is a value to me, or, yeah, please make this a priority. Like, how would you recommend we, give that feedback? Is it just a comment? Like,
It's
for
just
example,
a comment, and
Don't
yeah,
forget emoji.
yeah, little. Okay, you can do those little things now. Okay, yeah.
yeah,
I didn't.
you can do
Okay,
those.
yeah, we can do that. +1. Love it. Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
Perfect.
and also speaking about this topic will help a lot. I mean, you now are aware of it, and also
Yep.
bringing it up from time to time will help us to get the
Absolutely.
importance.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's a lot of these enhancements that right, and that's where it's helpful to know, like, right, these. Right, just where to find the conversations and the discussions and proposals. That's just an education too. That where to find these links. Maybe that's feedback for you, Oleg. Like where, like in the community or getting started kind of guides, like know that we have enhancements proposals here. Here's we manage the backlog in the the Keptn repo or whatever. Right? There's only it's not that complicated. There's only like 3 or 4 places, but if you don't live and breathe it every day, or you're net new to Keptn.
Yeah. So we try to put the key items on the roadmap. So here you can see roadmap labels.
Yep.
And actually, I suggested that we add them to 67, 68, and 64, because all of them seem to be reasonable. So 64 and 67 would, 67 and 65, where is it? Well, yeah, I just lost. You still haven't been split to 2 caps, right?
Nope, but it will happen.
Okay, so once it happens, I suggest we add it to the roadmap is work in progress. And trigger sequence somewhere under triage, we have this state so that users can discover that. So at least my vision is that key items that are actually being worked on should go to the roadmap. And at some point, we need to think what we actually do with caps that are stale, because it looks like we have a bunch of them.
Yeah, right. Keptn Open Telemetry is currently on ice. And so, yep.
If I might get back to the cap 68, I have two things I wanted to say. One is, I know that Thomas is writing this from a very technical standpoint. I think there would be a benefit if we can get like the end user perspective in a little bit more. Like, what does it feel like for the end user? Like Rob asked. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, I'm wondering if we have any plans or ideas if we can reduce the amount of Git repositories that is involved in this process now. Like why is there 2 or 3 repositories that we need? I know why, but like from an end user perspective, it's not clear. And I could think that it is possible to go into a single repo, like also putting Jenkins up as an example again. In Jenkins, you just configure one repository that you're pulling your Jenkins file and your source code and whatever else from. So this should also be possible somehow. We can have this as the default that's there, but I'm really wondering if we can make it, if we do this change, if we can also make it towards have one repository and not multiple.
Yeah.
I would support that
Yeah,
too.
that's kind of what I was thinking. Yeah, exactly.
In Jenkins, we basically have infrastructure as code. So it's configuration for Jenkins itself. It's usually one repository, and another repository are project files like a Jenkins file, etc. They usually go to the project repository because it's how pipeline as code is documented. And we also have separate repositories for libraries if relevant. So libraries are still being discussed for Keptn, but it was brought up many times. But for infrastructure as code, supporting one repository would be really good. And this infrastructure as code can also contain sequence definitions. But at the same time, I think we need to support both options, that you have sequence definitions right inside the repository, or you have them on the project side eventually. Which it can make things a bit more complicated, but eventually it would be also useful too.
Is there, maybe this is in that bulleted list, Johannes, is there another item, because I know you guys were talking about changing where we don't have branches per stage and having, a more flat structure. Is that kind of tied into this one?
No, that's off topic.
That's a different topic. Okay, that's fine. I know that's, to me, it's just about ease of management of the files, kind of topic. But yeah, all right, that's fine.
All right.
So yeah, I guess that's the suggestion is like a maybe some additional information in the PR around the motivations to do this from an end user point of view.
Took a note on that.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Yep. For today, I will stop here for today and happy to continue the discussion in 2 weeks.
Yeah. So for the next item for GSOC, I would rather take it offline because, again, I have time constraints, crash run. But what I am going to do, I will send a message to the developer channel today so that we can see what we can commit to. And I'll do the rest of legwork. Actually wanted to do it a few weeks ago, but FOSDEM and other stuff completely delayed. But I think at first it would be still beneficial to apply.
Oleg, are we also still looking for a topic?
For Google Summer of Code? Any topic ideas are welcome. And what is important, having potential mentors. So if you consider in some conditions participating, I mean, it's several hours per week during the summer, and it can be load balanced. If you consider participating, please let me know if you have any project idea in mind, because currently for us it would be nice to have this project list accumulated in this GitHub issue, and then we can see what actually flies, what not. But for starters, we can need to create this framework.
All right.
Okay, and yeah, same for Christian, for Rob. If you're interested in something particular, if you have any ideas that could be useful, just drop them in the comments in the ticket, and then we can start from there. So currently we have just a few items. Yeah, do you see my screen?
No. Now I can, yes.
Yeah, so basically what we have, better GitHub integration, it's something I need to expand. Then we have key 6 idea, which is documented, Jenkins executor service for Keptn, Keptn plugin for Backstage, which needs to be revised because we have pending integration. And we briefly discussed with Thomas that GitOps for Keptn, we might find something there too. But all these ideas, they're currently really just ideas without much description.
Well,
Scope.
Since you got Meg, maybe helping out with our workshops and tutorials. Not workshops, but the tutorials. I know it's not code, but there is, again, if they're students, they would kind of learn and test and make sure they all work.
It's not code, so it's not for Google Summer of Code. We can do it from LFX mentorship, but there is also Google Season of Dogs, which we could apply to. But for Google Summer of Code, you need code.
All right, Google Summer of Code. All right.
So I just can take
thinking about summer, which is good, right? It's February, and we're thinking about summer. Okay, that's good. Yeah, I'll put that. Maybe in your. I don't know if people get to see the chat in the recording, but I'll put that link there for people.
Yeah. So what I'll do next developer meeting on next Thursday, I will present what we have basically from end to end. And we'll see if everyone is fine with the application. Is it fine with everyone?
Sounds good.
Okay, so yeah, sorry that I delayed this topic. Yeah, a bit overcommitted. Okay, anything else for today?
Yeah, well, good job, guys. So next meeting is 2 weeks?
Next community meeting is in 2 weeks. So basically what the current arrangement seems to. So we will keep doing community meeting in APAC. We will be moving developer meeting to APAC time zone because the most of the team voted for that. And we will still keep doing these community meetings, but every 2 weeks. Not every week, but every 2 weeks. And if there is need in developer meeting in the US time zone, then we can see how we do that. But I personally think that we should eventually merge community and developer meetings anyway, because there is no particular value in splitting the community. So I think that basically whomever wants to present, just join, whether it's community meeting or developer meeting, and we figure it out. Okay. So yeah, then thanks everyone and see you next week. I will publish the recording tonight. The recording from yesterday is already uploaded. I just didn't publish it because I need Open Graph, but everything will be done today.
Cool.
Right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Have a nice
Thanks
one.
all.
Bye.
Bye.